What up, everyone? George Langabeer here with SilverHammer Surveillance. Today we're talking about covert cameras, hidden cameras, or spy cameras. Basically, back in the day, I could hide a camera anywhere. And so people would come to me and, use cameras to spy for various purposes, and it just got crazy. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, how it got nuts, and why I stopped doing it. Let's go. All right, so we're talking covert surveillance, or hidden cameras, better known as spy cameras. Back in the day of my loss prevention career at Shopco, a regional retailer, we basically used hidden cameras to catch employees. We had the shoplifters, the customers that came in and stole, but then we had employee theft, which was actually a much bigger problem because they could rip us off for more merchandise or more money, cash and everything else. So we had to get creative on how we tried to catch these employees, because they kind of knew the ins and outs. A lot of times they'd help loss prevention, so they saw our camera system. So we'd have to get creative on how we caught them, so a lot of times we do them with hidden cameras. And in the retail world, we call them chip cameras or board cameras, and you see one pictured here. But basically they're spy cameras. And through that whole process, I got very creative on how I could hide one. By the end of my career, I could hide one anywhere. So when I started SilverHammer Surveillance, I thought I would offer that service. So basically we would install hidden cameras, we would install GPS trackers, and we could also scan if you thought you were being watched by a hidden camera or being followed by a GPS tracker. We had a scanner that would find all the above. So when I started SilverHammer Surveillance, that was a big part of our business. We would hide cameras and help people, and help people is what I wanted to do, and we'll get to in a minute why that went wrong. But I was hoping that I could, help mom and pop grocery stores, help catch their employees. People that didn't necessarily have the resources to have a loss prevention person there. I was hoping to help them by hiding the cameras for them, catch those employees. I also was hoping to help in custody battles or abuse situations with children, but that got weird, and we'll talk about that in a second. So those were my intentions, to help good people that were having problems, hide a camera to help catch the bad people. And then with the GPS trackers, that was always a weird situation, because usually it was a spouse situation, a divorce or something like that, or you thought your spouse was cheating, or your girlfriend or boyfriend was cheating, and we put GPS trackers. So that always made me feel a little bit weird, and I didn't like it. So I just did an unboxing and a demo of the Apple AirTags, and in that video I talk about them not being a GPS tracker and why that's important to me, because I just don't want to get involved in that anymore. We don't sell GPS trackers. We don't sell hidden cameras. We don't scan for those devices anymore. And here's a couple of the scenarios why. I wanted to help the good people, and all I was getting was perverts. And not all of them, don't get me wrong, but I was getting perverts and weirdos and freaks that wanted to spy on people they shouldn't be spying on. Or if it was a spouse situation where they thought the spouse was cheating, they didn't want to watch the video themselves. They'd try to ask me to watch the video. I didn't want to, because it just opens up a whole nother can of worms. So I just kept getting dragged into people's drama. And with the GPS trackers, it was always some weird custody battle, and they would try to drag me into court. And I was trying to help people, but man, it went too far. And a lot of times, if you get that far in a relationship where you got to put a GPS tracker or a hidden camera on somebody, you should probably just end the relationship. Let's face it. Now, in the cases where it was divorce or whatever, in custody battles, now that I understood, but for me, it still got weird, because I got dragged into all those situations. And then I would scan for these devices, which I don't know why I ever started doing that, because it was always paranoid or shady people. One time, I had a woman that just got divorced, and I scanned her house, and then their neighbor across the street had just installed a wind chime in a tree. And for some reason, this woman was convinced that her ex-husband was watching her and listening to her from the wind chime all the way across the street. Now, I knew that wasn't possible, but to just ease her mind and give her peace of mind, I decided I'd scan it for her to make sure that there was nothing in there. So there I am with my little scanner, trying to sneak across the street, not looking like a shady-ass person, because I, kind of look like a shady dude as it is, by design from my shoplifter days, to combat their shadiness. But there I am trying to sneak across the street with my little scanner, and I've got this scanner like holding up to this tree. I looked like an idiot, just to prove to this woman that there was no item tracking her or watching her in this wind chime clear across the street. But it was always things like that, or it was criminals. I walked into one house to scan for hidden cameras, and everything in there was stolen, and half of it was stolen from Shopco, which I worked at. So I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is all my merchandise. I want to bust this person. I want to have them arrested. But because of confidentiality and because of, they were my customer, I couldn't just walk outside and have them arrested because it was all confidential. So I was in a very weird spot because everything in there was stolen. This person was clearly shady as hell. And here I am being forced to help them, which I did not. So basically, in all those situations, I wanted to just turn around and walk away. So I had situations like that. And then one time I went to this woman's house. She thought her husband was cheating. She had, her name was on the title of the vehicle, and she thought that when he was cheating, he was driving this other woman around. So this is kind of the one that put me over the edge because I just couldn't believe what I was doing. But basically, she wanted me to hide a camera in the vent of his vehicle. So since she was on the title of the vehicle, it was her vehicle, she had the right to do that. So I did. So one day he was at work. She said she needed to borrow the car. She kept it for the day. And so I took his dash apart. I hid a camera in the vent. It was a beautiful custom job. And I'm thinking, what if this guy comes home? He's going to want to fight me. And I don't blame him because it's his vehicle. And here I've got it torn apart trying to hide this camera. And yeah, he might be a cheating fool, but I don't blame him for being upset that I've got his dash apart. So I'm thinking, what am I doing? I can't do this anymore. I wanted to help this woman out, but come on, this is crazy. So I had situations like that. And then going back to the tracking, scanning, where I would scan for devices and GPS trackers, the only time I ever found something, and I did this hundreds of times, and mostly it was just paranoid people and it wasn't really happening. But the only 2 times that I found something, number one, the guy had the Air Force after him. He worked for the Air Force. I don't know what he did to the Air Force, but I found something, and it was an Air Force device. And that's the thing with when you're being, you had people like me that could hide cameras, but for the most part, when you're being surveilled by somebody like that, it's very sophisticated, very expensive, and usually, if it wasn't somebody like me doing it for you, it was the government. So they would, put, it was very sophisticated devices, and I was like, dude, I'm sorry, I didn't know this is the kind of thing you were into or in for. I didn't know there was the Air Force, so there it is, but I'm not touching it. You can do whatever you want with it, but man, I can't do anything with this. You're on your own. And then another time, I went to this woman's apartment. She thought she was being tracked, and I found a device, and it was because Homeland Security was watching her. She had just broke up with somebody on the terrorist watch list. And I'm like, okay, this is too weird. These people are on the wrong side of the law. I've always been a guy that's fought crime and caught criminals, and the confidentiality thing was weird. And I had cop friends that I just wanted to walk out the door and tell. Half the time, like the guy with the Air Force, I wanted to call the Air Force. I wanted to, call Homeland Security. But it was such a weird thing, and I'm not saying that I didn't anyway, but that's where it got weird because I felt like conflict of interest. I wanted to do this, and sometimes I did call because I couldn't let it slide. These people were so shady that people needed to know about it. So I tried to be confidential, and when I realized that the conflict was there, I just kept getting situation like that after situation like that. So between the scanning of devices where it just got so weird with people, and then hiding cameras where it just became perverts. And the worst part is sometimes I would just sell these devices and I wouldn't be the one to install it. So just thinking about where they put my cameras just made me ill because God knows what they did with them. And then there were things like legality. Audio. People wanted to plant audio devices all the time. And sometimes you can hide audio devices and sometimes you can't. Depends on the state law. A lot of times the federal government says you can't do it, and sometimes the federal government supersedes the state government. So people think they can do it and they can't do it. But people would try to plant not only cameras, but cameras with audio. And that just got weird because of the laws. And so sometimes if they got in trouble, the person that sold it to them could also be liable. So I'm like, people are just doing too much weird stuff with my equipment. And I did not get into it for this purpose. So a lot of people still call me for this because I did it for a long time against my will. Every time I sold something, I felt like I needed to go take a bath or a shower because it just felt so dirty and disgusting. And I've always been the guy that's been catching crooks. So I had the best intentions, but it just went horribly wrong. So even though I still have that talent where I could hide a camera anywhere, and I know it freaks some people out, but I trust you, I'm not doing it anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore. So we still get calls all the time. Hopefully this video will help that. Like I said, I just made that AirTags video, and a lot of people were asking me about that little part of the video where I start explaining that, talking about the drama. This is the drama. Perverts. People being paranoid, being watched that they weren't being watched, or it was the government watching them and something needed to be done. Another situation, I was talking about the children. I had a woman that thought the stepdad was abusing the child, and God knows I wanted to help her catch him. But then once we got a camera involved, she started freaking out that the guy was going to hurt her. So I wanted to call the police, and I got the police involved because I'm not letting this little girl get hurt. But she was mad at me because she was scared he was going to find out I got the police involved. And then she just started freaking out on me and got upset with me. I was like, lady, you got me into this. I want to save your poor daughter from getting abused. Who doesn't? I mean, this can't happen. You can't let this happen on my watch. So yeah, I'm going to get every police person I know involved. But she was just upset because now all of a sudden she felt threatened that he was going to find out and hurt her, even though she came to me in the first place. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this covert surveillance because it can be useful. Catching employees, yeah, it can be used in the spouse situation for custody and other productive ways, but or accident claims, people trying to fraud insurance companies. That's why I started that side of the business, but those are not the people I got. So again, I got a bunch of questions after the AirTags video. I wanted to kind of explain what I was talking about. So that's my take on covert surveillance. Yeah, I still have access to it. Yeah, I still could hide it anywhere I wanted to, but I'm not going to do it. So hopefully this prevents those calls in the future. So that's my little take on covert surveillance. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you stay out of that kind of drama. Hopefully you never need a hidden camera or a spy camera. But again, if you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, be notified for other videos in the future. Until the next one, peace and love.